So I was about to say this is just sort of a different kind of event. We have lots of wonderful classes and workshops on things, but this is just sort of a hooray, this all exists, it's wonderful sort of event. It's an appreciation for the store existing, for the people who run it, for the people who come here and support it, for everybody who makes this their spiritual community in any way, shape, or form. And so a few of us are just going to share a few remarks about it from a few different perspectives, and I will let David Praver kick it off.
Good evening. Along with my wife, Asha, who will be speaking after me, I help to guide the different activities and enterprises of Ananda throughout the Bay Area. And of course, many of you are familiar with Ananda. We have a church in Palo Alto, and a teaching center, elementary school, living wisdom school, kindergarten to 8th grade. We have a farm out in Halfmoon Bay and a yoga center, and community in Mountain View where many residents and people live together. And of course, East West Bookshop is one of the different enterprises that Ananda has. We are very grateful for East West for many reasons. Partly, many people find Ananda through East West, but also East West is a center, a community, a resource, and in many ways a spiritual direction and feeding people's spiritual sustenance through coming here and being a part of the energy and the programs, being with the staff. Many, people just look to East West as, really the heart of their sense of family, and so we're very grateful for that in all the different ways East West reaches out to people. We've owned East West Bookshop since 1980, and so it's been part of what has been taking place in the Central Bay Area for a long time. But as many of you know, people come from all over to visit East West, and people who come from all over the country, when they come to this area, make a point of coming to East West because it's the largest New Age metaphysical bookstore and center in the country now. I'd like to mention in particular how appreciative I am for all the people who work here. People have been really dedicated to the existence, not only the existence, but the building of East West and the service to the greater community with great dedication, great amount of time and energy. We have been very fortunate to have people who have been on staff for a very long time, and so there's a long-term continuity to development of the store. And so I'd like to, Tanava, who is just here, is, waves at me.
Still here.
He's still here, is one of the co-managers, and also Nushin. Where is Nushin? Is Nushin here?
Probably hiding.
Nushin is probably hiding. When she walks in, I'll introduce you. She is also a co-manager. Is she there? Nushin! You are one of the co-managers.
Hello.
Nushin's been here also a long time and really helps to, when you admire what's going on in the store and the beauty and the diversity, she, among other things, works with all the buyers and works with all the staff to just help to make everything as lovely and interesting as possible, and so very much appreciate both of their efforts here. I'd like to just take one moment very quickly for those who are here that are on staff. If you just stand up, give your name, and then just quickly say what you're doing, such as I'm a buyer of such and I work some at the front desk. I mean, something of that sort, just so people will know who you are in your service here at East West. So, on the road, do you do anything here?
I think so. I'm co-manager number 2 with Nushin.
Okay, great.
I'm Santosh. I'm the customer service manager.
I'm Amara. I'm crystal buyer and paper products, grading cards and things.
I'm Rose. I'm candle buyer. Well, Rose Shop. There's another Rose here. Candle buyer, full site department, TSS.
I'm Carl, and I receive the books, unpack them, and put labels on, and help get them out in the store. And help Diane.
I'm Lee. I buy music and different kinds of healing sound tools like crystal bowls and tibetan bowls and flutes and things, and I work in the front desk.
I'm Sue, I'm the events manager. I book all of the presenters, authors, and workshop leaders who come here.
I'm Darren, I'm the gift buyer.
I'm Rose, and I help machine with apparel and jewelry, and I work some at the front desk.
I'm Todd, and I design East West Magazine.
Okay, excellent. Well, we're very appreciative of all. So my wife Asha will speak for a few minutes about a little bit of the history of East West and how it came to be.
I was trying to think back to the beginning of it. East West Bookshop used to be in Menlo Park on El Camino, where Feldman's Books is still there, I think, in a really little funky building just past where you turn off to the Stanford Shopping Center, as I recall. The East West Bookshop in that incarnation actually was a critical part of my getting onto the spiritual path. Because in 1966, 67, 68, 69, when I lived in this area and was just beginning to wake up to the spiritual life, it was the only way to find out anything. No internet, no e-books, and also just the whole world of metaphysics and spiritual teachers and so on was just beginning to crack open. And that place was the place where if you wanted to know anything, and it was all books then, because there were books. There was nothing else. That's what I was saying. It was the only way to find things out. And that store had been created as a labor of love by a woman named Virginia Sharfman, I believe, and her husband. It might have started about 1950, I think, because I think they'd had it 25 or 30 years by the time we took it. And she had the vision, and I do think it was a partnership, which is they had an interest in metaphysics. Think about the 50s. That was a very unusual thing to be interested in, and they were somewhat eccentric people, but in a positive, interesting way. And they got that building, and then they just started researching and stocking it with the most interesting and the most important spiritual books that they could find. And she sat at the desk, and it had, as it has now, an enormously loyal following, because it was a lifeline to that way of thinking, which is what it became for me too. Every time you wanted to understand something, and even libraries didn't really have that much, you would go to East West Bookshop and either stand in the aisle and read it or buy it and take it home. Time passed, and Swami Kriyananda's parents lived in Atherton, and he of course is a great bookophile himself, both an author and a reader. And when he would come to see his parents, he would always go over to East West Bookshop too, to see what else was happening and just to sort of be in the atmosphere. And he and Virginia Sharfman became very good friends. He appreciated her, she appreciated him. And then one day, he walked into the store in 1980. Virginia, she was actually losing her eyesight. Ironic for a person who runs a bookstore, but she was losing her eyesight. And she said to Swami, you know, this store is like my child. This is not a business to me. It's not like I would just, when I'm tired of my child, I would sell him to anyone or give him away. I have to make sure that whoever takes my child from me will raise him properly. So Swami wasn't thinking at all about it. I mean, it wasn't on his radar. She just said, would you buy the store from me? It was almost like as a personal favor, would you buy the store from me? And Ananda didn't really exist in this area at that point. And in fact, East West was what caused Ananda to move to the Bay Area. We were in San Francisco at that point, but we weren't on the peninsula. So Swamiji, and he tells the story about how you can draw intuition in a moment, that good decisions do not take time, they just take energy. That's how he puts it. Because she asked him, and it was about, she was giving it to us at a good price, but it was $40,000 or so down, which was way more money. We didn't have any of it. I mean, it might as well have been $1 million, because there was nothing. But she just looked at him, he looked at her, and he kind of closed his eyes for a moment and said, yes. And he knew it was the right decision. And he invited Jacqueline and Vasudeva, who were living in San Francisco, if they would come down and manage the store. Jacqueline said, I don't know anything about managing a bookstore. He said, don't worry, we'll figure it out. He said, and his words were, just love your customers and everything else will follow. So for a number of years, David, when did we move to this building? I can't remember.
95.
95, so 15 years. So then it started being an Ananda enterprise, and we had our Sunday services upstairs. People lived upstairs in that old building, and then we had Sunday services up there, and people moved down to live in the bookstore, to run the bookstore, and it just became the center. But it also had this other purpose, which was very important to us. Yogananda's teachings, to which those of us who are part of Ananda are personally devoted. As disciples, we practice Kriya, we're devoted to this line of gurus. But there's this irony that has to be balanced, which is that the teachings of self-realization are universal. The line of gurus we follow is specific, but self-realization is a way of approaching life. And even though we follow through one particular master, all spiritual paths are about expanding your awareness and learning self-realization. So necessarily in our temple, when people come and they really want to know what it is that Ananda follows, we offer them Yogananda's teachings, and even more specifically as Swami Kriyananda expressed them. But it's not in our hearts to be sectarian. And so having this bookshop from the very start has always been the perfect balance, because through here we can offer all paths as valid and as important, and put energy behind what can otherwise just be a pleasing sentiment, that there are many truths, one truth but many paths to it. And we can host many other teachers and just present for the whole world to find their own way with great sincerity. And even though those of us who are part of Ananda may have found the path that we believe in, or we believe suits us, this store has always given us the opportunity to be genuinely universal. And I think it's been a benefit in all directions. It's kept Ananda itself more open and flexible, and it's given us this wonderful way to just be part of this community. And Swamiji would often say that as things begin, so they continue. And I think in the 1950s, when the Sharfmans decided to open a metaphysical bookstore, it had to be a labor of love. The only reason that you would do that is because you really loved and believed in what you were offering. And in loyalty to her, who gave us the store and who started it, we've always followed that same advice, and the same advice Swamiji gave to Jacqueline at the very beginning. Just love the people who come in the store, because that's really why we're here. If the store itself can exemplify the spirit of what's being offered here, then it will also, it becomes a magnet, it becomes a haven, and it becomes a point of clarity. And the point of clarity in this particular planet at this time is something that's highly necessary. And so the opportunity to be part of that has really been, I think, a great blessing for Ananda. And we are so grateful that Virginia thought to speak to Swamiji all those years ago. And so grateful for generations now of exceedingly dedicated and creative staff who in this very changing economy have been able to just keep reinventing the details in order to keep the essential spirit of open inquiry, of genuine spiritual support, of an equality of understanding, providing a forum for truth in all forms, and just an opportunity for loving and kind, high-minded people to mingle, whether customers, staff, whoever it might be. It's really an atmosphere for truth seekers to come together. And that's what it's always been, and God willing will always be, in the guise of a business, in the guise of a crystal or a gift store, whatever it might be. It's a point where high-minded truth seekers can come together and celebrate on this planet that we have found kindred spirits and an atmosphere in which we can be ourselves. So God bless you all, and with great gratitude to all those who sustain it through your efforts or sustain it through your patronage or just your support in whatever way you express it. It's been an honor to be part of it all these decades, and we look forward to sailing on for as long as God is willing.
Well, when I was asked to speak about my almost 17 years here at East West, it was a daunting task to figure out what to say in just a few minutes. So I found myself inspired to write it down into words and to share it with you. When I first started working here in 1998, I was honored to be part of a business that encouraged folks to know themselves at the deepest level by offering books, music, products, and events designed to help us know that we are all a part of that one true light. A place of inspiration, solace, and joy. A place that for many of our customers is their temple, their place of inspiration. What a joy to have been here so long. How much has changed here and in the world, and yet how little has changed. East West has always offered the latest forward-thinking expressions of truth through our events, something for everyone. In the months around my start at East West, we hosted such inspiring teachers as Dr. Carolyn Mace, Marianne Williamson, Sonia Choquette, Shakti Gawain, Dr. Vasant Lad, and Matthew Fox. It was fun to go over some of these old magazines in the last few days. We witnessed meditation in motion through the sand mandala created over a week's time by the Gaymet Tibetan monks. And we enjoyed concerts and sound healing events by Stephen Halpern and the chants of East and West by the gifted Robert Gass. Around that same time, a new book by Eckhart Tolle attracted over 400 people to our event, where he taught that true joy is found through the power of now. We also learned how water molecules subjected to negative and positive energies actually changed shape and form, with Dr. Masaru Emoto reminding us that being mostly water, we too will receive these messages from water and must be conscious of those energies around us. All of these wonderful events in different ways were expressions of that one true light, speaking to different people in ways they could uniquely hear them. The good news is that we continue all these traditions today, through the latest sound healing products such as bowls and tuning forks, through uplifting films, and of course through a wide range of speakers offering their own unique ray of light to share with our customers. The world in this area has certainly changed, and we are ground zero for the technological revolution. East West's commitment to making life work both practically and spiritually is why we're here. In our first glossy magazine produced in March of 1997, our main article was an interview entitled, "Finding Spirituality on the Internet." And since that time, we have sought to bring that balance to our friends and neighbors in the epicenter of it all. Though much has changed, so very little really has. My most satisfying experiences continue even today on a day-to-day basis. Seeing someone rush into the store and then slow down as if running into a big cosmic pillow. Seeing folks meditating by the fountain or filling out a healing prayer request. Or reading a book while their baby sleeps listening to the water's calming sound. The satisfaction of knowing that people form deep friendships here, and even one marriage that I know of has taken place here. And they come here for so much more than to shop. They come to know themselves and that they can find their own ray of that one true light.
Santosh mentioned passing the healing prayers. We have a little box out by the fountain, and people can just write a little note on and put in their request into the box, and they do get read and prayed for. And I like that part of the store because it's one of the things that reminds me that the real effect that we have is not always what we see. Every once in a while, in the prayers, instead of a prayer request, I'll find a note. One lady just wrote us a little letter once, and she said, "Thank you for your prayers. It helped. I'm no longer worried. I feel at peace." So, most of the time, they don't come back to you. You don't know. Every once in a while, we get a little thing. Another lady was asking me about it at the counter. She had filled something out. I was like, "Do people really read this? Like, what happens?" Come on, and I assured her that we do when we pray, and then it's in God's hands. And she accepted it. She was grateful. She went away, but she came back the next week to tell me how much better she felt and give me a hug. It's just so sweet. That's what's really happening here. The store. We buy and sell merchandise, and it's great, and it's wonderful stuff, but it's really facilitating these other exchanges of energies in a lot of ways. And I love watching it when customers find ways to give back, not necessarily to us, but to anybody, the energy they get here. One of my favorite stories, a year or so ago, there was a man who came in, and he looked sort of down on his luck, and he was going through some of the crystals. And he found this one crystal that really, really spoke to him. He liked it a lot. He was standing and holding it for a long time. And he finally decided, I just can't spend money right now. He put it down and he walked out the door. As soon as he was out the door, a lady who was standing nearby rushed over, got the crystal and bought it, and then ran out the door after him. Just in time to see him getting on the bus and the bus pulling away. So at this point, most of us, okay, I'll go back and we'll return the crystal, whatever. This lady chased down the bus, took off running down the street, caught it at the next bus stop, got on the bus, and gave this guy the crystal. And then came back, red-faced and flustered and panting a little bit to tell us. She felt so good. She could tell somebody needed something, and she had the energy to give it, and it turned out she had more energy than she thought she needed to give it, but she had it, and she shared it, and she kept it going, and it's just those beautiful little stories that make things, really, really work. And that's why we're here. It's that consciousness, whether you get it through a book, whether you get it from a workshop, or just chatting with the people that you meet here. It doesn't matter. That's where it's going. It's a change of consciousness. It's been interesting being in this job. I've been here for a little over 3 years now, which in the context of this bookstore that started in 1950 or so, I feel like very much the tip of the iceberg standing on the shoulders of all the giants that went before me, as they say. It's a wonderful experience working here, because it's different when you go into a job or workplace that is spiritually oriented. David and Asha mentioned that many of us here are members of the Ananda spiritual community, but the staff at East West Bookstore is actually pretty mixed. We're not all Ananda people, or maybe half or so, but still everybody is on the same page in some basic respect. We're here for more than just running a business, more than just making money. We understand that there's spiritual goals to what we're doing here. And it's just so different coming in to work at a place like this. And I could feel coming in, it's something so much bigger than me that I got to attune myself to. And I'm just so immensely grateful for all the people I've gotten to work with. Because people have been here, some of them for 20 years or more, some of them for a few months at this point, but everybody just finds wonderful ways to flow together and make everything work out. It's also been an interesting exercise for me in a few ways. Like the original Ananda manager, Jacqueline, who claimed she didn't know how to be a manager, and Swami just told her, well, love your customers, which is good advice. This was not something I ever expected to do. So it was a wonderful exercise in just trust and moving forward and seeing how things play out. One particular interesting thing to me, I think, was figuring out who the managers were going to be, because Tushti and Surendra had done this before together as a pair, and sort of taking on both their jobs when they moved away seemed like a lot for me, so we were trying to figure out who would be a co-manager with me. And Trishti and Surendra thought Nushin would be a good idea. And it was interesting to me because she was probably the person at East West that I knew the absolute least. So it was a wonderful exercise in trust because they just got to go, okay, they think it's a good idea, let's go forward and let's do it. And I've been so happy to get to work with Nushin because it has been better than I could have planned if I was trying to think of anybody to manage with. So I think we've been a wonderful pair, and I'm immensely grateful to her and to everybody that I've gotten to work with. It's been a fantastic experience, and so I thank all the staff, all the customers, all the greater spiritual community of the Bay Area, Ananda and otherwise, for just really a wonderful experience for all of us. I think that is about it for the formal part of the evening. You probably noticed that there is a ton of food still back there, and anything that we don't eat, somebody has to carry home. So eat it, please. It's wonderful. It's fun. Yeah, stay and chat if you like. Stay and shop if you like. It's a wonderful time to get your Christmas shopping done as long as you're here. Also, an extra fun little thing that I thought we would offer for tonight. About 2.5 years ago, Swami Kriyananda gave us an Aura camera. And so if you've never seen a picture of your actual aura, it's really fun. It actually prints out with the colors around your face. And so I have that set up in the room just around there next to the bathroom. And so special tonight, if you buy an Aura photo, you can have the entire interpretation report for free along with it, so it works out to be about half price. So anybody who wants to do that, it's really fun and worth doing if you've never done it before.
How much is it?
$25 for the whole shebang. It takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes.
And then you send it to us?
Yeah, and I print out a picture and send you the whole report.
Oh, you send it.
Is it paid?
So it's easy and painless. So that is it for tonight. Thank you everybody so much for coming. Thank you. Thanks for coming to East West and all the way to all of you. Eat, drink, be merry, chat, shop, whatever you feel like doing. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.